Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And real quick, before we get anything underway, there is a GoFundMe for the Federation's, I guess, 2 members, Red Admirals. I'm not sure exactly, but there's a GoFundMe in the description down below to help their families. 2 of the Federation's Rear Admirals have passed away. So if you guys want to help the families out, feel free. Like I said, description to the GoFundMe is down below. So yeah, we're going to do introductions now. Starting to my right on the screen. That's Mr. That's your cue.
Oh, me. Okay. Shh. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Papa Gord, the Canadian Santa Claus. Apparently, I guess I'm representing some of the Star Wars side tonight. So glad to be here. I don't know. Yeah, I collect Star Wars stuff, Lego, Black Series. That's me in a nutshell.
Enewtabie, you're next. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
And then GotBot after.
I have a channel on YouTube where I do like figures and stuff like that, so you can check it out if you want to. I guess I'm representing Star Wars, but even though I've worked on Star Trek projects with Star Trek writers, this is going to be interesting. So,
okay, I did not know that.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
That is pretty cool. I'm GotBot. I do a number of Transformers reviews, new and old, and everything in between. Some is good, some is not. Every Monday is the countdown, as voted on by fans all across social media. Every Thursday night is the live show. And yeah, that's about it. As far as where to find me, I don't know. I'm all over the interwebs. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody else with the name. So if you put in GOT, I'm not going to be a hard man to find.
And I'm Razyel Kane. I'm from in Canada as well. So today it's 3 Canadians on the stream. So I'm really happy about that. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Discord, all under Razyel Kane, spelled with Y's, because the other version was already taken by somebody else who's less popular now.
And hello, I am NinjaBill from NinjaBill Reviews. You can find me here on YouTube as NinjaBill Reviews. You can also find me on Facebook as Shinobi Biru. You can also find me on tformers.com as Shinobi Biru, and that's pretty much it. I also do a live show with Razyel once a month. We do a book review. We've been doing the Wheel in Time book review, but we got a new series coming up probably in a few months. It'll be a different book, and it's going to be exciting. And I also have a live show I do once a month, as you can see with the thumbnail, called NinjaBill Live. And that's it. And we'll turn it back over to the master of master control input.
Yep, that's me. It's me. It's in the N-PUT. And now that we got the introductions out of the way, I've been told by Anthony that this show is actually in memoriam for their admirals. Sorry, they weren't, what did I say, red admirals?
Rear admirals, yeah.
So they're admirals, Juanita Gamble and Frank Tajelle. I think I got the last name right. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, so we're discussing what's better, Canada or the U.S. That's why Canada's on the bottom right there. And
what?
No, just saying, just
trying to rile you up.
It's a terrible joke. We all know Canada's better, you guys.
I lived in Canada too, so.
Oh yeah, you were in Toronto.
Markham.
But we're discussing which one's better, Star Wars or Star Trek. It's that age-old question that 6 fanboys, not us, but the movie, the Star Wars guys, where they showed up and they kicked all the Star Trek kids in the balls. You guys remember that movie at all? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, okay. I thought that was a funnier joke than what it was. Okay, whatever. Look at I'm trying here. I'm trying. But what are we doing? We're going to discuss ships, weapons, technologies, characters, story, and then we're going to have a versus mode. What's a versus mode? Mortal Kombat style. Fight to the death. Who wins? Celebrity death match just with Star Trek and Star Wars. It's really that simple.
How great was my thumbnail, by the way? How great was
awesome,
that?
Dude.
Fantastic.
It was awesome. I'm not gonna lie. When you were like, "Oh, I'll take care of the thumbnail," I was like, "Man, it's just gonna be an Enterprise thing with like the Millennium Falcon blowing up in the
Never
back."
go around with Captain Picard.
It's Vader and Picard, right? So, I mean, so I guess we'll start with ships. Razyel, look, I'm flying blind here. This was yours and Anthony's love child, right? So,
Yeah, we got because we kept arguing. So the story is that every time for the past 6 or a year now, once in every stream, we argued that Star Wars or Star Trek was better. You know, with subtle message like I registered StarTrekIsBetter.com or StarWarsSucks.com, you know, stuff like that. So eventually we decided let's have it. Let's do a stream. So basically, each category we're gonna go around and like Input's gonna give his favorite ship. You know why it's better than a Star Trek ship, but also since we all watched everything, what's a good ship that he likes in Star Trek. And then we're going to trickle it down like that. And then at the end, decide why Star Trek is better. So there you go. And then at the end, it's going to be the versus mode. Like, so red shirt in a same room with stormtroopers. Who dies? You know?
the red shirt.
Both.
Red shirts.
Yeah.
They both kill themselves by
No,
accident.
no. Okay, remember, there's a line in Star Wars. I'm going to settle this one right now. There's a line in Star Wars that Darth Vader gives. I want them alive. They're missing on purpose.
Okay, see, keep it for the versus mode. You're jumping. You're jumping.
Okay, so ships. I guess, dude, some of my favorite Star Wars ships would be the TIE Interceptor. It's just, I don't know, man. That thing just looks sick. It's a TIE fighter with these wings that extend out, and it's like these 2 points on the end. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, check it out. The TIE Interceptor. It's freaking awesome. And then, honestly, dude, I got to go with the classic, the Slave One. Truth be told, Boba's Slave One in particular, because it's not pristine, nothing. It's battle damaged. It's beat up. It's got space debris all over it. And the way that it lands and takes off is just ingenious. It's not a standard ship where it just lands on the belly and then takes off and stuff. You know, it lands on its back, it stands up, and then flies away. That is just superior design to anything Star Trek could ever have. So, and then I will say this: to play fair, a Star Trek ship that's always captured my imagination is the Borg cube. It's just this Rubik's cube, like this black Rubik's cube with windows that floats through space. And the thing is like with space and like blackness, you don't see it. You know what I mean? Like scientifically speaking, you would not see that thing in space. And that's in its own right is terrifying, and it just kind of lends credence to like how terrifying the Borg are supposed to be. And look, I'm doing y'all's job for you. That's why Star Trek sucks. Anyway, what you got, Papa Gord?
Oh, that was a great way to finish that one. Ships. So many ships. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go along the same lines as the the Interceptor. I really enjoy the TIE Striker that we've got to see in Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
Right?
It's a good one.
Here, we'll do a visual. So here we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this one, again, it's the sleekness. Just it's something slightly different than just our classic TIE fighter design. Yeah, you know what? The bad guys always have the coolest looking toys, right? But the Striker for sure. You can't go wrong with the Millennium Falcon. I do find if you really look at it through all the Rebel designs, pretty well every Rebel ship looks, except for the Tantive 4, has seen some action, whereas the Imperials, they're all nice and shiny and brand new looking, don't look like they even have a speck of rust on them. So I can appreciate what the Rebels have to work with when they're going up against, maybe better designed vehicles, whether or not the people piloting them can do any better than the Rebels. But I would say those are probably my top two, and then I'll rest in peace Razor Crest, because I did quite enjoy the Razor Crest until they blew it up. So yeah.
That's something that you brought up, just that always kind of, like the Rebels versus what the Empire has, like everything's shiny and new.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I used to go to racetracks all the time and just watch the races, and there would be a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, fresh off the showroom floor, 0 to 60s, like 3.5 seconds or something crazy.
And then some beat up old 84 goat that would just slaughter them all.
But then like this Honda Civic would show up and it'd go next to the Ferrari and dust the Ferrari,
Yeah.
So, but I jumped in front of Enewtabie to say that, just to, I guess, be even more nerdy, to add on to what Papa G said. Enewtabie, what you got, man?
Star Wars, I guess I would say I like the B-Wing. That's the ship I run in squadrons when I play it.
That's a fantastic ship too.
Yeah.
Love that ship, the way the cockpit rotates. You can go side or straight up and down. And sort of the same thing with Slave One. Like that ship too. So if we're going Star Trek, I guess USS Reliant from Wrath of Khan, and give me the Prometheus from Voyager NX 59650. Triple vector assault mode thing.
All right. Now this goes, before the Star Trek side gets started, this goes for you guys too. You got to at least throw one Star Wars ship in there.
Oh, yeah.
So, GotBot, what you got, man?
Okay, so I was going to say Prometheus,
going to be,
but of course that got said. I was going to say the Borg Cube. That got said. Also, the Pegasus. That was a interesting dynamic when they kind of done that whole story. But I was thinking more in terms of outside the Federation, honestly, like a bird of prey, a battle cruiser, like anything Klingon, because they're built for maneuverability, right? So I guess I always preferred more sleek maneuverable ones, but at the same time, then I go to DS9 and the Dominion ships, and when they appeared, you knew bad things were going to happen. It's as simple as that. So I was thinking more like in terms of different empires, I suppose. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, and then I was thinking about like some of the dumb ships, like, God, like, what were the Romulans thinking with that design where like the ship's basically hollow? It looks idiotic.
Well, I kind of liked it.
Oh God, I didn't
like
like
design.
that. And in general, I don't really like Vulcan ships.
I don't like Cardassian. I don't like the
Cardassian. Yeah, the Cardassian ships are weird. But I mean, the Borg Cube gotta be my favorite. And it's always the most menacing. I mean, you see it and you want to run from it, right? And you'll probably can't outrun it. That's the thing. As weird as it is just being a cube, it's maneuverable, it's fast, it's aggressive if it needs to be. Like, it is what it is. In terms of, I hear you guys talking about the Star Wars ships, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know jack about what they're called or anything like that. But I'm shocked that none of you actually said the Millennium Falcon as one of your favorite ships. I guess not being a fan of it, I don't know what's popular with it.
Well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Millennium Falcon, but I think, to me, it's just one of those things where when I was 12, that was the ship that I wanted. But as I've gotten older, I was like, yeah, but is it though? I mean, because it's so well known. Yeah. You know, the Empire sees it. He's a smuggler. You know what I'm saying? It's like, But an X-Wing, you don't know who's piloting that thing. You don't know who's flying it. You know, it's more of like a stealth thing. So, But Raz, what do you got, man? Go ahead.
Well, since DS9 is my favorite series of the whole Star Trek universe, I have to go with the Defiant.
Nice.
I mean, that was an actual warship. You know, Federation ships are mostly exploration ship, you know, with firepower and shields and everything. But the Defiant with pulse phaser cannon, ablative armor, phaser arrays, like it's built for war.
Which one, the first one or the second one?
There was two-way, but the second one, the one that won the war, But I really like the look of the Defiant, maneuverability, speed, and everything. If you pit that against a Falcon, I think the Defiant would whoop it. I'm just saying. As for Star Wars, I'm a huge Star Wars fan as well. I think I'm gonna go with the Slave one. Really, I always like the gun turret under at the bottom. So he's flying upwards and he's shooting from his feet. I thought it was original, and also that kick-ass sound those bomb made in the second movie.
Yes.
That in theater, they could have run this sound for 3 hours straight. I would have sit in that seat and just listen to it. It was an amazing sound. So can't deny that the Slave one, it's a classic.
All right, Ninja Bill.
Okay, I have a couple of favorites. So I like the Curiosity class of vessels. I like the look of them. It's a simple design, but it's just aesthetically very pleasing. All the rounded bits just right. The curvatures here and there. It's real pleasing. It's the newest starships in the fleet. You saw them in Star Trek Picard. Most powerful, right after the Enterprise E, which is considered to be one of the most powerful ships ever. It's fast, it's powerful, it's great, and I always loved it. Another ship I really like is the Defiant. I love that little ship that could. It's the little ship that could. It was designed specifically to tackle Borg cubes and the Borg, right? And it was hardly ever actually used in a fight against the Borg, but it did real well against everything else. It's just this little powerhouse, and I love that. It's fast, it's versatile. I dig that. Favorite Star Wars, I'd have to say Revan's Imperial. What were they? Interdictors, I believe. Those ships.
Oh man, Revan, yes.
That thing, look, from the front, it looks just like like a big, arrowhead coming at you, and from the side, it looks like this big claw-like thing just reaching out in space, ready to pierce or grab you, man. And
they were a bitch to shut down.
Oh man, they were full of firepower. Revan is one of my favorite Darths of all time. I'm a huge fan of his character. I'm biased. That's why I like that ship so much, because he's one of my favorite characters. Because Revan is just cool. All right, you can get rid of every other character in Star Wars and keep Revan, and I'd be happy about it.
Well, real quick, I do want to give an honorable mention to the Winnebago from Space Force.
Oh yeah.
We can all agree on the Winnebago.
We all agree, hands down, it wins over any Star Wars Star Trek vessel.
Yeah.
We all agree with that. There's no need to argue.
Yeah,
that and the Mega Maid.
The Mega Maid.
Mega Maid. I'm still hoping we're gonna get it like on the 28th when they release that next Titan. They said. I'm hoping it's the Mega Maid.
Dude, if the next Transformers crossover was a Mega Maid,
I'd be all over it.
Oh man, I'm buying the Mega Maid. I don't care if it's a Hash Lab, whatever thing.
Oh, if it's a Hash Lab, I'm out.
Yeah. No, man, it'd be worth it. But I think we're getting a Guardian robot, so I'm excited for that. Anyway.
All right, so after chips, we've got weapons. And weapons. All right, let's do this. Let's get this one out of the way. Every 4-year-old in 1977 picked up a stick from outside when he got home from the movie theater, and it instantly became a lightsaber. Straight up, no hand, just that's what it was. So lightsaber, and I will say the counter to the lightsaber. Well, we'll go extended universe. The Young Sung Vong had guns, like blasters, that would were able to shoot through the blades of the lightsaber, so a Jedi couldn't block the shot. Right. So that was always fascinating to me because it made the Jedi think. So if a Jedi landed and they were attacked, you know, they go into their defensive positions and they try to block the shots, and then all of a sudden one's dead because he just got riddled with bullet holes. Then it becomes a, you know, like the Jedi who's still alive is like, oh shit, now he's on his toes a lot more. Now he's more defensive. You get to see more of what a Jedi can do because of that. And most of the time they died because their main defensive weapon was useless as a defensive weapon, right? But yeah, those two would honestly be my my two favorites. And since we're talking about weapons, it can be weapons of anything from either universe, right? So it can be ships, weapons, whatever.
Yeah, ships or anything. Yeah.
And I'll say
I already have something in mind, so yeah.
Star Trek weapons, nothing for me on this one, man. And this isn't like a knock on Star Trek or me being, you know, like a smart ass about it or anything. It's just weapon wise, Star Trek just never had anything that kind of captured my imagination. You know, it's like, okay, you had a cell phone, like you had like a Motorola Razor, and like a handheld little stun ray that looked like you held the Motorola Razor at a different angle. It was like, okay. You know, like I don't know. It's just like, okay. If it works for you guys, cool, but all right. Whatever.
Designed for comfort.
Like Han Solo said, nothing beats a good blaster at your side, kid.
Yeah.
All right, Papa, what do you got, man?
All right. Well, I definitely have to go with the lightsaber for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I still have my stick in my garage from when I was a kid, probably. But yeah, lightsabers were definitely just absolutely crazy as far as, I guess, just your imagination. The fact that we've seen multiple colors now just because Samuel Jackson wanted purple instead of going with, you know, the classic green or blue or even red for the Sith. Just to see how they finally, going back into the prequels, at least seeing maybe some slightly better or longer lightsaber battles than what we saw in the original trilogy. I think that heightened, and I was a lot older when those films came out, but yeah, lightsaber would definitely be my number one. I always had a soft spot just for the Stormtroopers E11 blaster as well.
Cool.
I had that toy growing up when I was a kid, up until very recently when I found my box and unfortunately something had fallen and crushed it. So yeah, the E11, they couldn't hit the side of a barn with them half the time, but I kind of dug the design of it. So, and then yeah, same with Star Trek. Yeah, that's, you know, I don't remember a whole lot of weapons besides the phasers or whatever the hell that damn double-bladed knife thing that. Thank you. So there you go. That's it. That's what I got.
Let's see. Probably my favorite. I'm gonna skip the lightsaber. I like lightsabers, but I'm gonna go with the E11D, the Death Trooper blaster.
Oh yeah,
because it's got that flame burnt barrel. It's got a different sound to it. It's got it looks good. It's what I play with in Battlefront all the time. So got to go with that. That's really it for Star Wars. Star Trek, I'll go with Worf's the little blade he carries in First Contact. Either that or like the second or third movie phasers that they use. It look kind of like the pistol, not the old school one, but not the new stuff now that looks weird, like a vacuum cleaner, not those.
Yeah. My turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I'll do the Star Wars one and get it out of the way because I don't know much about it. However, I will admit that when I first saw Darth Maul's double sided lightsaber, I was like, that's more like a staff than a sword. And I'm not much of a melee guy, but I got to admit that and granted, we've seen lots of variations on it since then. But I remember seeing that and it stood out to me. probably because I worked in toys at Walmart at the time. But like it stood out to me that like that accessory, that take on it was different than what else was on the shelf. And I was like, you know what? I'll give credit where credit is due. That's pretty cool. That's a cool take to give it, to change up something that's become very familiar now over the course of a couple of decades, right? So I'll give credit where credit is due, even though I'm not a big melee guy. Other than that, I mean, any of the I guess rifles that the stormtroopers use, you know, and when I say stormtroopers, I mean like all the variations as well, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's just too general. So when it comes to Star Trek, I mean, I got to make a note about a phaser, and I get it. Like a lot of times, like I agree, it usually looks ridiculous. But I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there's that episode where they really turned it up full power to like 16, and they shot, what was his name? Commander Remick? Was it Remick? He had the thing inside him that was going to take over, and his neck was bulging.
Yeah.
And it was Remick, right? That was his name, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
And they shot him with the face, and like he blew up and like exploded, and like his arms and his open burned up torso was left after, and it was like, man, I didn't know phasers were capable of such violent results, because that was really, really, for the 80s especially, like that was really graphic on TV. But in terms of what I prefer, or what I would say is my favorite, I got to go with a Romulan disruptor. Klingon disruptor, largely because all of the parts, often they incorporate as part of their uniform, and they can literally kind of like, even if they're in a cell, they can take the parts and make a disruptor, and then the thing disintegrates you. Like, come on. And the multiphasic shielding that the Borg use, you know, you hit them once and you kill one, cool, but then the other ones adapt. That's pretty cool technology.
Yeah. Yeah, but is that a weapon, though? You can
well,
defensive?
We do have a technology phase next, so maybe
it crosses over there.
But I mean, it's part of combat. I have to say, I'm going to go with a good old Klingon Batlet as well. You know, that curved blade. And although you have to be a true master to wield that thing properly, but, you know, there's something, I don't know, terrifying about that weapon. And I think that's pretty cool. And then we've seen it, you know, many times, different version, different, you know, the original Batlet from Kalis. And so, you know, that's something. And then Star Wars, of course, the lightsaber is a classic weapon. I really enjoyed more the Bastilla version from the Old Republic, the double-bladed yellow lightsaber.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that the games did good, bring more yellow blades for the Sentinel class. But in the movie, it always kept purple once and then blue. You never really saw yellow. And then in Clone Wars, at the end, Ahsoka has white blades. So that was pretty cool. So, you know, lightsaber will be definitely a classic. But if it didn't cut through a Batlet, I'd like to see a fight. You know, that'd be nice.
That would be an interesting fight.
Yeah. And one thing I have to say to Anthony about the spinning double lightsaber from the Inquisitors from the new shows. I don't like those. I think everybody's a Grievous now.
Oracle got the right answer from all of us, by the way.
Oh yeah, the Schwartz sword, of course.
Yeah. Schwartz is that's when Input said everybody went home and they picked up a stick and pretended that it was a lightsaber. Not me. I pretended it was the Schwartz.
Yeah.
I got in a lot of trouble for that.
Well, just real quick, RB he asked, what would Brian Boitano do? And he would make a plan and he'd follow through. That's what Brian Boitano do. All right, Ninja Bill, you got your pick, man.
All right. So when it comes to Star Wars, I've got to go with Dennis's pick as well. The Klingon disruptor. That thing looks like a Western revolver. It really does, man. Once you put it together, it looks like an old Western revolver, and it's got that feel of a revolver, even though it really isn't. And of course, when it disrupts it. Hence his name, disrupts the molecules in your body and disintegrates you. And, it looks cool, all right? The effectiveness is there. It just looks cool. My second favorite is probably got to be the Federation sniper rifles, like in that one episode of DS9 where Dax, uses one to shoot through decks, man, entire decks and floors, and just that's pretty amazing. I've never seen anything like that in hardly any other series where you can just see through walls and decks and everything.
Well, I think it's got transported. Isn't that what it does?
Oh yeah. It actually transports the bullet to the target, right in front of the target where.
Oh yeah. That was an amazing. That was a weird episode. Loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Another weapon I've got to give an honorable mention to, no English, is the Genesis torpedo. Because if you want to, remove a nebula or two out of your way, hey, no better weapon than the Genesis torpedo.
That's true. A bit unstable, but it works.
Yeah. But it works. I mean, and you'll find nothing like that in the Star Wars universe. I mean, you got a big moon that shoots planets. Okay, well, we got one that destroys entire nebulas. What do you now? Anyway, I think that's a favorite weapon of mine. So when it comes to Star Wars, I'm not so much into that iconic lightsaber thing. I actually love the bowcaster, the Wookiee bowcaster. Those things are just cool. I mean, come on. It's like a crossbow that shoots lasers. I mean, how's that cool?
That's pretty cool.
I love that thing. So that's my picks.
All right. Well, from weapons, we move forward to technology. Razyel, you want to explain this one?
Technology is anything, basically, from basic commodities to ship, functions, AIs, the holodeck, stuff like that. But again, in the perspective that, which one is cooler than the other. So
in terms of Star Wars technology, obviously I got to give it to Star Wars on this one because it's that space western type of tech. It's almost like I can picture if I close my eyes, I can be in Star Wars with the technology. It's easily adaptable. It's easily understandable, right? I don't feel like I have to go through years and years of school to understand how to work some of this stuff. It's like the red button means stop, the green button means go. That's how it works in Star Wars. Like
you have to dumb it down for everybody.
Yeah.
I find it very interesting you say that. I'm going to circle back to that.
See, and I've been playing nice this whole live stream.
I'm going to play nice.
He's gonna nicely destroy you. That's all.
With a grin.
No, I mean I've already won this for the Star Wars side in one of your streams, Raz. So
yeah, no, because you went with writing stuff. You went way outside the universes.
Okay, anyway, so we all know that Star Trek would beat technologically is far more advanced than anything Star Wars could ever produce. So let's start technology.
Jesus, can I finish? So, but what I'm getting at with the whole thing with Star Wars, it feels more real world, It's one of the so it's one of those things to me when you watch your mom, your dad, or whatever when you're a kid driving a car, nothing fancy. You're not driving like a 6-speed Ferrari. You're not doing any crazy heel toe, double clutch, anything like that. You're just watching gas brake. You pick it up. You pick it up real easy. So by the time you go do your driver's test, you have a really firm grasp on how the technology works, right? You have gas brake, steering wheel, that kind of thing. You have a really firm grasp on how it works. You don't know, you might not fully understand, the rules of the road. That's why you get your DMV, driver's license, whatever. And like I said, Star Trek always came off as like the preppy posh technology. You gotta go to like a 12-year lawyer degree school BS just to understand it and all this other stuff, right? Like it's basically technology for dickheads, right? So I mean, that's really that's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's,
When he
yeah,
goes
okay.
low,
I know where
when he
GotBot's
goes
going to
high,
go,
he's
so I'm
still
just going to
going
leave
low.
it.
When he
I'm
goes
just
high,
saying.
he's still going low.
So, but yeah,
Paddling that boat. Keep rolling. Keep rolling.
But Papa Gord, what do you got, man? What do you got?
Honestly, for I really agree with you on pretty well every point. I think on like Star Wars, watching any of it, I always felt like, oh yeah, you know what? Given the right outfit, I could be on that planet. You know, like that. It seems doable. But whereas Star Trek, like I hated going through school in real life, but it just seems like you're constantly, yeah, you have to. Man, your education must just keep continuing until you're ready for them to put you out to the old folks' home. Because, like, what kind of fun is that? I'd rather, you know what, let me farm moisture evaporators or, you know, whatever. But yeah, I do find, yeah, Star Trek really, it seems a lot more cleaner. It's a lot brighter. But yeah, I almost feel like Star Wars is more attainable. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I think we've got a better shot at seeing some of the Star Wars tech over, you know, hopping into a transporter and getting your molecules zapped and shooting you off to God knows where and hoping it puts you back in the right way.
Oh, we couldn't build transporters. The power requirements would be outrageous.
Absolutely. So yeah,
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Theoretically impossible. Cool, but
And
impossible.
We're talking sci-fi, man.
Well, in the transporter thing, it opens up the question. See, you said one thing, Papa Gord, that it's obtainable, right? Like it feels like it's obtainable.
Yeah.
But the biggest question I've always find with the transporters is if you go from A to B the way a transporter would deliver you there and take you from there, is it really the original you that lands?
Exactly. Yes.
Or
here's my problem with transporters. As much as I love Star Trek,
You're on our side, NinjaBill. There's
no
problem with transporters.
Listen, but I'm also trying to be objective here. Here's my thing with transporters. They're almost useless. 90%. Look, we're getting winds to the west. Can't transport down. There's somebody's, you know, got a sneeze. Oh, they can't transport down. I mean, the weather affects it. Shields affects it. Everything seemingly.
It's like the ice cream machine at McDonald's.
90% of the time. Yeah, it's going to be McDonald's ice cream machine. Exactly. It doesn't work. As much as I love Star Trek, it doesn't work.
I'll disagree with that. Okay, put NinjaBill on the top row now.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be objective here.
Hold on. Okay. All right. I gotta keep control. We gotta stay in order. Enewtabie, what do you got, man? Technology.
All right. So I flew the Millennium Falcon with a joystick and 2 buttons in Florida, so I know it's pretty easy to fly around.
All right.
Star Trek though is super complicated because I read the Enterprise D technical manual for years, and I still don't remember how that thing works. So
inertial dampeners, friggin' dampeners. I was like, what are you talking about? I know I had that book too and read it a bunch of times as well.
Yeah, I read it to the cover
but I mean, it was a technical manual, so it was meant to be like something that an engineer would read, right?
Yeah,
it was meant
smart.
to be technical.
So you know that's yeah. If GotBot doesn't touch on it, I will. So go ahead. But okay, keep going, Enewtabie.
I think Star Trek is way technical, but it could exist in the future. Star Wars just feels like old Western, like Input said, like watching John Wayne Western, you know, even the bikes seemed like horses. If you look at like what Mando drives on the planet or whatever, the skiff bikes, they seem like horses in a way. Even the carts and stuff like that. It's kind of really of a nod to old technology. And where Star Trek is basically meant to be Earth in the future. Star Wars is meant to be galaxy far, far away. So it's alien history.
But it's in the past, though, too.
So he said history.
What one could say, since it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, that Star Trek was actually the follow-up to Star Wars. Think about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Earth in the
about it.
future, right? With all the technology, all the MIT over-engineered because they think they know everything.
logically, that doesn't work.
Engineered engineers who
Star Trek
design all this stuff, right? Anyway, go ahead, Godbot. What you got, man?
Okay, so first of all, you touched on the first thing that I was going to mention, which was it's difficult to compare the technologies because ain't Star Wars long, long ago and far away. So it's difficult when you're taking something that was admittedly calls itself long, long ago, and you're trying to compare it to something that's 300-400 years in our future. As for the over engineering, no, that's called technological advancement. NASA has recently said that warp capability may be possible. They use tablets. Oh, wait, we have those. They're called iPads, and everybody on the planet uses them all the time. They have mobile communicators. Oh, wait, that's cell phones. Right. Okay, they have replicators. Granted, we don't quite have replicators, but you know what the first step in that is? 3D printers. I don't know jack about it, but you know who does? Input, for as complicated as it is. Star Trek has shuttles. Real world has shuttles. Star Trek has space stations. Oh, wait, we have the International Space Station. Hyposprays. Have you ever used EpiPen? What else? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't see what you're saying about it over-engineered. Oh, universal translators. Google Translate. I like Star Trek because you're right. It is our future. And a lot of what has come up there has, in some form or fashion, either become a reality or start to evolve into reality. Because guess what? The best science and the best scientists were science fiction fans and took those ideas and said, what if?
Yep.
What if that can be real?
Yeah.
The one I'm waiting for personally is I'd love to, of course, see a transporter. But since that's, as was stated, like not realistic, though it's really cool. And I wish it could because, man, it would make this morning commute so much easier. Honestly, I would like, my favorite has to be the EMH, the Emergency Medical Hologram. How can you not love that piece of technology? How can you not love Robert Picardo?
Yeah.
So real quick, I just want to say thank you for proving my point that Star Trek's technology is for dickheads.
Well, educate
the 3D printer.
Yeah, I'll circle back.
Real quick, I just want to point this out real quick, right? You're talking about tablets and you're talking about video phones and everything else. Every time you go out anywhere, people are face deep in these screens that now own our souls, right?
For sure.
And every last one of those people, there's 9 people at a table, and every last one of those dickheads have their face in their phone, in their tablet, in their everything, not communicating with anybody except for, oh, look at this cheeseburger I'm about to eat.
But what does that have to do with technology? This is about technology. It's not about socialization.
No. I'm just proving my point. Just saying that you proved my point that Star Trek's technology is for dickheads. And
are you implying that we're all dickheads? Because you're probably right about that.
Yeah, no, that's
yeah. Well, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But okay, I'll take over. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead, Raz. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that, from the way I look at it is that the Federation has been stagnant for over 4,000 years, right? The technology 4,000 years ago is pretty much the same technology that you have today. So they peaked in high school and then, never went to college and then never got a degree. So the technology just stayed high school level. So everybody can use it. Any schmuck can get a ship, fly it, make a living, mining ore from some rock or whatever, mining gas, smuggling stuff for the huts. So that's, Star Wars is like high school level technology, like that little project you did in high school where you build that, your own little, paperclip.
All that homemade volcano.
Exactly. Star Trek, though, every iteration of Star Trek was, we're going further in technology. We're going further. We're progressing. We're educating ourselves. We're being smart about the technology. So I think when you mean dickheads, you really mean educated people. That's my take on it. Now, my favorite piece of technology from Star Trek is the transporter. Because even though it would have huge requirements of energy and stuff like that, I think that's a neat way of, traveling and saving time on commute. But also, well, in the versus mode, I'm gonna have some fun with that. But for Star Wars, technology wise, the fact that I do appreciate the like the how do I like the fact that they can build those massive ships, like the Superstar Destroyer, the Death Star. That's good technology, and it's also how do you finance that? So they must have huge.
Oh, Visa. That's how they finance that.
Yeah, it's probably Visa.
Visa and Musk.
Yeah,
that's
so
who finance that.
I'm proud to be a dickhead. There you go. So that's my take on it. I think the technology, as the weapon, I'll give it the weapons in Star Wars are superior. The technology in Star Trek is way superior. NinjaBill,
it is refined.
in the foot.
Okay, so here's my take. And Star Trek has always been about the exploration of not only of the worlds beyond, but of ourselves. All right. So it's meant to inspire. The reason why, just as Dennis pointed out, the reason why we had, we started out with, brick phones, sure. And then, for handheld portable phones, because everybody saw those communicators in 1966 and said, that would be cool. All right. That would be, and let's remember, Star Trek predates Star Wars. So I'm just throwing that out there. Remember that.
And your point?
So, so it inspires, just like it inspired Star Wars, because they couldn't think of anything original, so they came up with Star Wars, Star Trek, Star Wars, So,
oh boy, that's why. Yep, technology for dickheads.
So, at anyway, it's meant to inspire. The reason why we did, have this portable, technology that we do now is because people said, that's cool. I want that. My favorite piece of technology is probably the replicator. Believe it or not, it's the unsung hero that is. Look, you can produce medicines with it. You can produce food. You can produce, if you need a cup for tea, well, you can have a cup with tea in it. I mean, Earl Grey, hot. There you go. Boom, done. I mean, replicators. They can produce weapons. Anything you can input into those things, it'll produce. It's the miracle freaking technology that just I don't know how it could ever actually be a real thing, to be honest.
So my question
you don't want to know how that actually works.
Well, here's my question about the replicator. Like legit, I don't know question. Okay, and this is for anybody on the panel that can answer, anybody watching that can answer, whatever. Okay. So we know that whenever cells get cloned, there's a state of extreme rapid decay.
Yep.
Right? So with that being said, if you're going to replicate something, wouldn't that technically be cloning it? So when you get your cup of Earl Grey tea, how long does it last compared to what the original one would be?
No, it's not cloning it. It's reconstituting other matter that's already on board the ship and recycling it.
Yeah.
So, okay, other matter, like the way
it's
you
said,
well, it's just like your body does sometimes.
Later they talk about it in
Hold on.
Deep
What'd you say,
Nine.
What'd you say, GotBot?
It's your poop.
Okay.
Yeah, and they also use what they call quote unquote gel packs.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they use gel packs.
And
they're biological.
Yep. Yeah, they're biological. It contains protein and other necessary stuff. And yeah, but it's probably my favorite piece of technology because of simply all the amazing things it can do. You know what? I need a blood transfusion. Let's just replicate this guy's type of blood. Boom, done. I want a steak, and some fries. Boom, done. Yeah. I need a plate. Boom, done. I need a phaser. Boom, done. I mean, I love that technology. It's probably the most important in my mind technology that Star Trek had that saw the best uses for it.
That's almost a cop out, though, right? Like, say you write yourself into a hole. Oh, just replicate Captain Kirk's phaser in his hand and send it down to him. Look,
It's been done.
episode
It's been
over. He
done.
wins.
It's been done. It certainly is a MacGuffin. Okay, it certainly does qualify as a MacGuffin. All right.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the Matrix is. The Matrix from Transformers is.
But now it does have rules. Like there are rules around what can be replicated, what the computer, has safeguards against. You can't over replicate certain things, and it can only replicate something that's already got a pattern in the buffer. If not, like you have to basically input the pattern for it to replicate the thing. It's like the holodeck. The holodeck is a great piece of technology too, but the holodeck can only make the environment and the characters that's programmed into it, which is where the whole problem came in Professor Moriarty, right? Because
well, that's what I said earlier.
Given to the computer was to make an adversary that could rival Data, not rival Sherlock Holmes, rival Data.
Yeah, I like the first episode of Moriarty. I hated the second one when that was a cop out. He's gonna live his life in that cube here now. I'm like,
that was a weird cop out. But I'm like you, I love the first one.
Yeah. So moving on to my favorite piece of Star Wars technology, I would probably have to say environmental, where they could, they had this I forget where I saw it. I want to say it was in an EU book somewhere, but they literally, didn't terraform a planet because they just used environmental processors. I forget what comic it was. I forget, but I thought that was really cool. It was like, look, we don't want to change the terrain. We want to utilize the terrain. We want to utilize this planet, but we also have to have colonists there and people there, miners doing things. So instead of terraforming, they went the cheaper route and just modified the weather. Now, Star Trek has that too, but not at the same level that Star Wars used it. So, I like that. I really, really do. They thought ahead, like, look, if we destroy the living biomes that these planets have, then it'll be useless to us. Let's just use something else that'll achieve the same results. So unlike Star Trek, where they said, "Oh, let's just introduce the Genesis torpedo to terraform a planet." Well, we all know how that worked out.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I forgot to give a shout out to a Star Wars piece of technology. I mean, I got to go with the Death Star because it's the Death Star. The only thing I don't understand is why was that thing designed with that one little weakness that was going to be weakness that could destroy the whole thing? Like what?
It's an
they must
exhaust.
have had Hasbro designers working on it.
It's an exhaust port.
Yeah.
So they had Hasbro designers working.
They had the modern day Transformers team design it. Yes,
they had the modern Transformers team design.
Go watch the Dorkly bits. The kid's an animation. Dorkly, it's an animation studio. They do cartoon stuff. There's one where the engineer of the Death Star, finally speaks about that tiny hole, and it's freaking brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah, he explains.
It's funny.
That it's an exhaust port and everything that happened, and it's really that's a good. And it explains, why that was there, and it should not have been happening that way. So that's pretty cool. All right, so now we move to characters. Okay, so character is really just a place of respite. We're at the halfway point. And
Chauncey there in chat said, we're maybe 100 years away from the energy now that controlled fusion worked out. Well, it was funny. Just before the show, I was telling these guys, it's interesting because although Star Trek definitely has faster speeds, but because of the type of engines that Star Wars uses, which is a fusion and cold fusion to power their ships, they are actually more steady, more, they actually fly better, if not faster, in space because they use fusion rather than some dilithium crystal. So it's interesting, Chauncey, that you made that point.
All right. But I still think Star Trek ships are cooler. Anyway, characters. Basically, that's just, who's your favorite Star Wars character? Who's your favorite Star Trek characters? A quick run, and then we move to story.
Okay. So what do we get? Like 5 characters, 3 characters?
Well, let's go top 3.
Okay.
You know, we're in.
Top 3. Okay. In any order or just
Yes, any order. Just do it.
okay.
Do it.
Okay.
Make it so.
Let's say I'll go Mara Jade. I'll go Han Solo because whoever pronounced it Han needs a good punch in the face.
Okay.
And man, dude, it's such a tough. Honestly, it's hard. Just top 3 Star Wars. Oh God, what's his name? I'm brain farting on his name.
Bob.
Dash Rendar.
Ooh.
The Builder.
Those are my top 3, hands down characters right there. And then one from Star Trek, right? What? I'm picking. You know what? Okay, I'll go really deep cut here for my life, right? What's his name? Geordi LaForge, right? Was that him?
Yeah, that chief engineer.
Yeah, and he had like the Cyclops visor on his face, right? So I would go with him because honestly, I just
love reading Rainbow.
Yeah, well, yeah, and reading.
I was waiting for that.
But I loved his design. I loved the fact that here's this human, and if you panned up all the way up from the camera angle, panned up, starting at Geordi LaForge's feet, and just went straight up, you would honestly think to yourself until you got to the base of that visor, right? You would be like, oh yeah, just a human. And then when you see the visor, you're like, what the fuck happened to that guy? You know, just the visor alone gives so much imagination to a kid, right? What does it look like behind that visor? What happened to him as a character? Like that, all of that.
I loved that they had the pilot of the ship because he started out as a pilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
On
That's right.
Bridge. I love that the pilot was blind, and then the chief engineer is blind.
Yeah,
and he's the one who keeps the ship going. The irony of that, I think, is poetic.
Yeah, and when he was teaching Data to paint, Riker said, you know, and a blind man teaching an android to paint, that's got to be worth, you know, a page in the history book.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I loved his design as a kid so much. My mom had this like brown hair thing that like kept her hair back. It's like just something, you know, you just put in your head, and it was brown and it reminded me of his visor. So I would put that thing around my face over my eyes. Right. And it was a clear plastic. It was like tinted brown. So I could still see. So I wasn't running into walls or anything, but I was like, man, this is such a cool design, but whatever. But yeah, those are my 3. Papa, what you got? You're up, man.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, I've always been an Obi-Wan Kenobi guy, but I'll be more specific. I'll go episode 3 Obi-Wan just for the sake of.
All right.
Yeah. Ewan McGregor, I really loved his. I just thought that was probably his pinnacle. I enjoyed aspects of the Kenobi show, not a lot of it, but aspects. But I think as he evolved through episodes 1, 2, and 3, I think he finally was hitting form, definitely for 3. And to see, I would have loved to have seen more in the film, maybe a little more relationship with one of my other favorites, which is Commander Cody. I know in the books and stuff there they do touch on a little bit more, but that was always, I really liked the relationship there. Now seeing it kind of come back a little bit full circle in Bad Batch this season, I'm kind of like, all right.
I haven't watched it yet. I haven't watched Bad Batch yet.
Yeah, so we'll see where it goes. I'm a few episodes behind. I've always been a Vader guy, you know, this big, just enormous black shadow. And just, you know, that scared the living crap out of me at the beginning. And he's still menacing. And again, to see him redone in Rogue One again. Just the hallway scene when he just slaughters all those rebels, and I was like, yeah, that's what I would have loved to have seen when I was a kid. So those would probably be my top 3 for now. I mean, there's so many more. And then as far as Star Trek, I'd probably go with Chief O'Brien. So,
oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I like them I was never a huge Generation guy. It took Voyager for me to kind of get pulled into the Star Trek universe, and then I kind of backtracked a little bit, and then just to see him there, and then to go to Deep Space Nine, and see he's got a family and the whole bit. I good for him. So,
Enewtabie, you're up, man.
All right. Look at my notes here. I'll take Vader, because I've always been a big Vader fan, either as Anakin or Vader. Is good. Anakin really from the Clone Wars, because you just knew what he was going to be, so it just kind of worked itself out. The comic is fantastic. If anybody's never read the comic, read the Vader comic. It's terrific. Number 2 would be Obi-Wan, from the original all the way up to the show. I really like the show. A lot of people didn't like it. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed parts of it. There was a lot of the whole Leia plot to me kind of.
I thought that was cute. It's
she
was
was
murky,
cute,
but by them two knowing each other, I think, the way they do. But and then number 3 would be Mando. Love the show from the very beginning. It's one of the few shows I've watched like multiple times. Seasons.
I have yet to watch.
Usually, I watch the show one time, each episode, and I'm done, except for certain things. And I've watched Mandalorian, I know, 3 or 4 times each season.
All right, watch it now.
Star Trek, I can give you 3 on Star Trek, and these kind of go together. Benjamin Sisko, Elam Garrick, and Gul Dukat.
Yeah,
All from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. First, I love Oracle's answer of Leia, Uhura, and Colonel Sanders. That's fantastic. I also, as soon as I saw a butterfly in the sky, I immediately thought I can go twice as high.
I think we all did. Yeah,
it's in a book.
Yep.
The Reading Rainbow. For my characters, oh my God, 3, only 3. Well, okay, Captain Picard. I mean, because it's Captain Picard.
See, that's the problem I had. It was like, crap, only 3.
Yeah. Captain Picard. God, there's so many that I love. I'm gonna say Chancellor Gowron, because he's just fun. Gowron's always fun.
Yes, he was. He's my second one as well.
And I think I'm gonna. I mean, there's so many good ones from the Doctor to 7, so many in between. But I think that I'm going to settle on
Ensign Kim.
God, no.
Hell no.
Not just
no, but hell no.
No, not Ensign Kim. Q. Got to be Q.
Great actor.
Yeah, John is fantastic.
Michael Bell actually interviewed for that. And then and said he got into the pilot for Encounter with Farpoint. So
yeah.
All right, you're up.
Okay, favorite Star Wars. Ahsoka.
Oh wait, I got to do my favorite.
Okay, go ahead.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Favorite Star Wars. Qui-Gon.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So I'll give you 3 of each because I love both franchise. So
Star
Wars.
Can't do that.
Yeah, I can. Mute me. No, I'm kidding. Don't. Ahsoka Tano is my new favorite character of Star Wars, because when Disney came in, I gave up on Star Wars. I don't like the new movies. I rewatched Rogue One, which I liked in theaters, and then rewatching it, it's not good. It's not great. But I do like the animated shows that they do. I haven't watched the Mandalorian yet. Boba Fett, I'm not gonna watch. Because I always said Boba Fett was an idiot.
Ahsoka.
But Ahsoka, she grew so much, and she saved the franchise for me. Like I went and then I watched Rebels. I watched, she was great in that too, and the when her and is it Rex? No, it's
Captain Rick.
her and Rex when they escape from all the clones,
Mhm.
and that
powerful
miniseries they
episode.
did with her and Count Dooku. You know, it was fun to see the training that she went through. She grew so much. She saved it for me. After that, for Star Wars, it's going to be Luke Skywalker. He's going to be, you know, pre-Disney. He's my favorite. He's my hero. He grew. He, beat his dad. You know, not really his dad, but you know, and Obi-Wan. Any iteration except the Obi-Wan show, because I thought they went and it's like they just watched the original trilogy. No, they watched the prequel, but they didn't watch the original show when they wrote it. So to me, that was lacking. It created a couple loopholes, and it kind of made him a lawyer to what he said to Luke at the end of episode 6. So it was just, I didn't. But I really love Ewan McGregor. So those are my Star Wars. Star Trek. My number 3 is going to be Bones McCoy. That guy was freaking hilarious. He's, in the movies and his appearance in Next Gen, fantastic actor. Love the character. And he could, cure anything and without, an EMH and stuff like that. So I really like Bones. The second one, that's going to be Data. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw I only watched the first season of Star Trek Picard because the story overall was lacking. But seeing Data at the beginning, I teared up. Like I was like, oh man, I screamed in the theater when the ship blew and Data died. I was like, no, and like it destroyed me. Love Data, but the best character ever written in Star Trek ever is Garak from Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
There's never been a character that you never knew where you stood. He was a good guy. He was a bad guy. You never knew if he was
Garak's loyalty was to Garak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
His loyalty wasn't to the Cardassians.
Oh, yeah. It was
his only loyalty was to Garak.
Yeah. And he had huge growth, and we saw his dad, and he was captured, and he was you knew he was a gardener, but he was a killer and a tailor and a spy. And that episode,
and he loved his world too, because
he did.
He went with Kira to help save Cardassia,
And the best episode of the entire franchise, In the Pale of Moonlight, is simply amazing. What he knows he has to do, and he knows Cisco will deny that that's what he wanted him to do. And Cisco fucking's gonna live with that.
Yep. So, where Cisco says like, he's sitting there in his quarters, and he's like looking at the camera and talking to the camera. I know
it was beautifully written. Episode.
Yeah. Beautifully acted. Well done. Well done.
It's your turn.
All right.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Yep. Star Trek. I am going to go with Garak as well. He's one of my most just, he's just a tailor. Oh, me, he'll tell you too. I'm just a simple tailor.
He'll tell you, yeah.
He'll tell you, I'm just a simple tailor. Ask him any question. I'm just a simple tailor. What would I know? He's a great character, a well-written, great character. Well developed.
DS9 gets a raw deal. They had some wonderful characters.
Oh,
it gets a raw deal because of it being stuck on the station, but like Wayoon. What a wonderful character Wayoon is too.
Yeah.
Right?
Quark,
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go
Quark
ahead.
Quark is one of my favorite characters as well. I love Quark because you know what the Ferengi are about. You know what they're about. And he's as Ferengi as they come, except, and that's the part that gets you, the except part. He even says it several times during the series. You spend enough time around humans and you start to think like them too. And he's a great character. Another one would have to be probably Gowron, I think. Because come on, it's who doesn't love Klingons? I mean, Klingons are awesome. Chancellor Gowron is he's great. Star Wars, I have two favorite characters from there. I have two, and that is obviously Revan. I love Revan
Yeah.
My favorite one, and Ahsoka. Ahsoka is one of those characters. She's first introduced as, by the way, I'm your Padawan, and Anakin is, oh, okay, well, you got yourself. No, I mean you. And he's like, what? Wait, what? And she's the most, probably in my opinion, the most well-developed character in the Star Wars franchise, because you see who she is from beginning to end, even up into the Mando series. There she is, still looking for Admiral. I have it. What's his name? Because Ezra and him. Thrawn, disappeared at the end of Rebels, and there she is in the Mando series asking where's Admiral Thrawn. So she's still obviously looking for Ezra and Thrawn. So, in my opinion, I may be way off base here. I'm not entirely up on the lore, but I those two characters, Revan and Ahsoka, have always they just hit it for me. And I'm going to expand a little bit further. Star Trek has some of my favorite species as well, like the Gorn. Who doesn't love the Gorn? I mean, come on. Giant humanoid reptilians. I mean, it's strong,
I was never a fan of
menacing
that episode.
And the Q. I mean, you've got the Q, who are basically, literally gods. All right. You got
that black oil thing that killed Tasha Yar.
No, but my favorite species above all of those is the Temerians, who speak in metaphors, just like how the we have
Darmok and Jalad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's sort of like how the Junkions speak in TV talk. We have in Star Trek, we have a species that talk in metaphors, and it's fantastic. I love that. So that's all I got.
Delagra. Yeah, that was great. That was a good episode.
Real quick before we move on the story, I want to say something real quick about two characters, Star Wars characters that got brought up, right? First of all, how intimidating is Vader with the all-black suit with the red eyes? And, I mean, just, like, take the LEDs and all the lights off his chest, right? Just imagine that. And he's walking down this dark room, corridor, no lights, and you just see the red eyes. And then you see the red lightsaber pop up. Like, how terrifying would that be?
Yeah.
And then Admiral Thrawn, what a design. Okay, first of all, he's probably arguably the baddest bad that Star Wars has ever bad, right? But he's wearing this all white suit, and he's got this ice blue, baby blue kind of skin, And it's just like, you would look at him and be like, yeah, that's a bit of a good guy design. White clothes, blue skin, bright colors, and he's just a bad guy. And it's like, that is such a cool design for the character.
I think I would agree with you, but for me, Darth Nihilus is probably the most
Nihilus. Oh, dude, yes.
He's the one with the white mask?
Yeah.
He didn't scare me.
Mask.
Yeah.
He's imposing. Oh man, he's imposing with those red stripes right up, either above or below the skull mask. And,
I don't know. We didn't. I was more afraid of Sleep with Vibroblades. He was scary. All cut up and shit.
Nihilus, man, Nihilus is scary. He is. He's scary. I could have nightmares about that type of if he showed up.
See, Star Trek gives you good dreams. Star Wars gives you nightmares.
Star Wars gives you good dreams too. What's that female Sith that's dressed like a stripper with the two lightsabers?
Oh, that's She's not canon, right? Dark Talon.
Twi'lek are canon.
No, she's not canon. She's just there for it's not even fan service. It's fan.
But that's a happy dream. But that is a happy dream.
I don't know, man. She'll freaking suffocate you.
So from characters, we're moving on to story. So Raz, what can you tell us? What does this consist of?
Basically, which story evolved the most? Is it the overall story and state of the Federation, the Star Trek universe? Which one had the best expansion? Star Wars or Star Trek, from A to Z, and then not in details and stuff like that. So you want me to go first to give you an example?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So basically, I think Star Wars to a point. Okay, Star Wars evolved very well from the expanded universe. You know, the Lucas time where he approved the books and, you know, showed everything. I think, and I'll give it to, you know, as much as people hated the prequels when they came out, it was still Lucas's right to screw his own franchise. That's his stuff. He wants to do whatever he wants with it, he does it. So I think that was probably a good evolution because you saw the whole Skywalker saga, and then the books branched off to give, you know, new stories and new characters, and, you know, just I think it went well. When Disney took over, it went to shit. I'm
I
just gonna
agree.
say that.
Yeah.
Star Trek, I think, went along kind of the same evolution, but I think it did it just slightly better, as in, you know, keeping characters authentic. So you have, you know, the original series and then Next Generation, and it always went forward, you know,
Well,
until they
except
went
Enterprise.
except
Enterprise went backwards.
Enterprise, and then, you know, because that was just a terrible show.
I
And
know.
then I didn't really.
Oh, I loved Enterprise.
Oh
Yeah,
no, I can't. It just.
I almost said Phlox as one of my top three. I love Dr. Phlox.
yeah.
Yeah,
Fox-
he was actually a good character, but I just
Yeah.
didn't like the whole dynamic of stuff. And
Anyway.
and then the but I think what kind of, because with the newer version of Star Trek with Destiny, Star Trek Picard, and
I don't like
New
Destiny.
Frontier and stuff like that, I think what killed Star Trek, the same way Disney killed Star Wars, is that they tried to make Star Trek action shows, and
But
that's
I don't
the
like
mistake.
Destiny. I don't like Destiny. I think it killed the series.
Exactly,
You
like
guys
it was
mean-
just
you guys mean
action and
Discovery?
shooting and everything.
Wait,
Discovery.
you guys mean Discovery?
Yeah.
Oh
Discovery
yeah,
is-
Discovery. Sorry.
Yeah, Destiny, Discovery. Point is, it's a terrible show, and I will watch it.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't terrible, but it made it too
Terrible.
action packed, you know. And Star Trek Picard, you have that android that's, you know, from whatever other android planet,
Oh.
and now she flips and they have kung fu style fighting. I was like, where's
And
the
suddenly she's
where's
Spock's
the
sister
wife?
in Discovery, and I'm like, what?
yeah?
Where the hell did this come from?
So I think overall, Star Trek evolved in a straighter line and kept its character authentic. Whereas, you know, I think we all hated the new Luke Skywalker version from Episode 8. That wasn't Luke at all, you know.
Yeah.
So I think if we take the whole thing, I think Star Trek evolved in a better way. So then that's, you know, up to you guys what you take, you know, the evolution of the story. How did it go?
So, okay. So I'll say this. I think the Star Wars story, for me, stops at episode 7 when Disney started producing it. And it's mainly just because of it 7, we all know this, it's just a remake of 4. And the subtlety that was there in 4 is completely ripped out of 7. So while I don't think 7 was a bad movie, I don't like the characterizations of the new characters at all whatsoever. And I don't like and I'm not going in depth with any of this, but I don't like the ending for what's her name?
Ray?
For Ray. Thank you. I don't like how, okay, all of a sudden she's a Palpatine, but then at the end she's like, my name's Ray Skywalker. No, dude, that's not how that works. Go sit in the corner until you figure this out. Now I will say this as far as so I say all that to basically say this is that the legacy media for Star Wars is my Star Wars, with the books, with the comics, with basically all the pre-Disney stuff that went further beyond episode 6, right? I will say, as far as Star Trek story goes, I found most of Star Trek boring. I do love Wrath of Khan. I think that's a given for any movie fan, not Star Trek movies, but just movies in general. I think Wrath of Khan's fantastically done movie, especially of that era. But like you're saying, GotBot was saying earlier, was that Next Generation was just on a chip and it was just floating through space, and it was just like, oh my God, come on. Like, don't get me wrong, characterization is one thing, but I also want to see these characters not interacting with each other. I want to see them, fight for something. I want to see them do something action oriented and everything. So in that regard, I think the Paramount movies, when they rebooted it, kind of handled that situation a lot better with the characterization and sprinkling in the action when it needed to be. However, I will say this: Star Trek should never have a fight scene that, like you said, plays out like a kung fu movie. It just doesn't work at all. I think so. I think in that regard, that's why I give it to Star Wars, because every character has its own story that you can deep dive into, that you can fall in love with, that you can just, pick a character, take a character, they're somewhere, and you can deep dive into their background and their lore and stuff. Where I feel like Star Trek, it's not really on that level that Star Wars has. If that makes sense. So,
All right.
what you got, Papa?
Okay, wow, geez, man, you guys are just I agree. I think going Star Wars up, no further past Episode 6, but then throwing the novels back in there, so old canon rather than whatever this geriatric new whatever they're trying to do, just to fit cool characters back into the universe somehow. But yeah, I don't know. That is really tough. Where like Star Trek, I definitely think character. If I had to just go totally, it would have to just go on character development. And whereas I haven't watched every Star Trek thing that's ever been out there, the bits that I've watched, some of the characters kind of get flushed out. But I always kind of felt like if I missed a few episodes, and if I kind of just jumped down on the couch and turned on it, I felt like I didn't really miss anything. Whereas I found the novels, like especially for Star Wars, like again, so much more of a deep dive. Yes, it's coming from multiple authors, but again, it's got to get approval back in the day from Lucas and what have you. And there were some great stories that I'm super disappointed we don't technically get to consider in the universe anymore. So I just kind of put my head in the sand like an ostrich after Episode 6 as far as film wise, and like I don't even display any of the sequel figures out here anymore. So but yeah, I would still say I always enjoyed, I think, the characters and the stories with the characters far better with Star Wars.
All right, Enewtabie?
All right, so I'm gonna say something controversial. So Star Wars has done a good job on telling the end of the story, and they've done a pretty good job lately of filling in the blanks for the middle and beginning. But continuous from the beginning to the end, they have not done a great job. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think Star Trek has done a better job in storytelling, because just to give you an example, in DS9, in like the first season, they mentioned a species on the other side of the wormhole. These people were trying to escape from the other side. They didn't mention them by name, but they said they were taking over their planet or whatever. You later on find out, like 2 years later, oh, that's the Dominion. And it starts the whole Dominion War arc that lasts for 5 or 6 years. That is good storytelling to me. I like Star Wars. I like where we're doing now with Andor. Andor's great to me. It fills in the spots that I want to know about. I want to know about the beginning of the Empire. How did these things happen? How did people just go from the Republic and all this to right into the Empire with no problem?
That's why
Bad Batch, Rebels, they've done a real good job on telling those stories. And the prequels were okay. I don't hate them or anything. They didn't do the best job to me, but they were okay. But the shows now, Andor's done a fantastic job. Bad Batch, when it doesn't do filler episodes, it does a good job, that's show's main problem. And then Rebels, Rebels and Clone Wars did the best job, even regardless of animation. They did a fantastic job telling the beginning of that story.
Yeah, the anime. It's going back to like Beast Wars. You know, the animation was probably not the best, but the story and the voice track were amazing. So
Well, for its time, the
get
animation
pulled
was
in.
top.
You know. So
For
yeah,
its time,
I
the
have to say
animation was top notch.
I'll agree
For
with
its time.
Enewtabie that the storytelling in Rebels and Clone Wars was impeccable.
All right.
I'm gonna let Ninja Bill go next because I want to hear what everybody says before I say anything.
Okay.
Okay. Honestly, I think I like the writing style better. And even though they're episodic, I do like the way Star Trek does its storytelling. Because even though it's episodic in most cases, there's still continuity that's considered in each one. From the 66 series on, even on up through the latest Picard season, right? You have that continuity which sticks, you know, and of course when there isn't continuity, what do they just do? They throw in a cue to make things interesting. But it's I love the way they took the idea of like Voyager. Voyager is a prime example. All right, because we're used to what happens. We've seen everything that happens in the Alpha quadrant of our galaxy. Okay, so we know what species is doing what, who's naughty, who's nice. We know all that. And then they take the Voyager crew and they throw them out in the middle of the absolute unknown, a place where no one has been before, and they're all by themselves. The little ship that could type of thing, like I was saying with the ships with the Defiant. But Voyager, I don't think it's a great series. Don't get me wrong. However, I did like a lot of aspects of it, and I think they're just really good at writing a story that you can watch. You can just pick up a couple of episodes and know what's that that show is about. You know what that story is going to be about. You take any episode from the original series, from Next Generation, from Enterprise. I know some people aren't a fan of Enterprise, but I liked Enterprise. I liked the idea of Enterprise. It was showing us what happened. How did the Federation arrive to the point where we saw in Next Generation? You know, it it solidifies the continuity of everything that you saw and everything that you will see. I like that. Star Wars does do good storytelling. It does a better job in comics than it does on screen. I will say that. Storytelling translates better in their comic and book form than it does on screen. That said, I really enjoyed the writing style of Clone Wars. I think they did an amazing job of taking an entire era that we only heard about loosely in episode 6, where they talked about Anakin being in the Clone Wars, and from there they developed this entire continuity that brought it all together. And I dig that. I dig that a lot. So I guess that's all I really have to say about it. It's just I love it when things work out that makes sense. It's not characters just thrown in just to, have, as input said, let's put Vader in at the same time as, so and so character. No, that doesn't work out. As much as I would love to see Revan in a new series, I don't see how it would make sense because I would
Yeah.
love. For a while they were talking about putting Darth Revan into Rebels or something like that, and I was like, well, cool as much as I love the Revan character, it wouldn't have made sense, you know. So, I like Star Trek because of the way they're written. I really do think they had excellent writers, and in some cases, some of the actors themselves did the writing or direction on the episodes of the Star Trek series. That in itself was pretty amazing too. I'm done.
All right, GotBot.
Okay. All right. So I'm certainly not qualified to say much about the Star Wars story because I don't know it. I've never watched any of the series. I've never read any of the books or any of the comics. I just don't have the interest. I haven't seen episode 9. I haven't seen Solo. So all I really know is episodes 1 to 8. And for what I know, limited of that, it's very space opera-ish to me. And that's why I'm like, okay. You know, plus it has the whole, because of the Force and the Sith and stuff, it has that whole fantasy element mixed with sci-fi, and that doesn't land for me. I'm not a fantasy guy in any way, shape, or form in the slightest. I'm pure science fiction. So that's why it doesn't appeal to me, but that's also why I don't really know the story and I'm not qualified for it. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge fan of canon. I like order, and don't do it if it doesn't fit in, because all that does is make me angry. All this reboot nonsense makes me angry. There's only one way to do a reboot, and I'll talk about that in a second. Here's what I do like about Star Trek. Well, actually, before I go on, I will say this. I realize that there's a lot more fiction that has come up, especially in the last X number of years, that wasn't around through the late 70s and the 80s, and some of the 90s. I feel like that the answers and the stuff that you guys that love Star Wars are getting now, and the bits and pieces that they've alluded to that they're going back and visiting. My only question is, why didn't you get this fiction and these answers and this stuff sometime over the last 35, 40 years? Why is it taking this long? Like, kind of like what Enewtabie said, like a good end. But why are you only doing the middle and the beginning like now? You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a bit weird. Maybe one day, if somebody was to sit down and read it all in chronological order, maybe it fits together elegantly. It's just very weird that this is the way it's done it. I prefer Star Trek going to what NinjaBill said in terms of the writing, because there is a progression. Like, if we want to talk about it in order, you have Enterprise, and anybody that is aware of the characters or the ships, or even the look and the feel of the technology of that series, will be able to read a book or a comic book or watch a TV show and say, that's in the Enterprise era. Then we fast forward some 100 years later, and that's when you get things a little bit murky, because that's when we have the original series. But now that's also the era where we have, for example, Final Frontier, which I like. I like the Chris Lake series. Frontier. And it's also kind of the era where we're having Discovery. I think Discovery's problem was what some people said, that it tried to be a little too much action and got away from the exploration aspect of it. And I think some of the technology they used in it was too advanced for the time period it was supposed to exist within. I do like the fact now that series had jumped to, I think it's like the 31st century or something. So now it's the one right out in the far front future, and this more advanced technology now makes sense. In between, we have, Next Gen, which I adore, DS9 and Voyager. I like all three shows, and they all share the same universe. One explores the races and the cultures and the social interactions and social hierarchy and social structures of races that live in the Gamma Quadrant. That's how we learn about the Dominion and whatnot, right?
Yep.
Then we have the same thing for the Delta Quadrant with Voyager, the Kazon. We learn so much more about the Borg. We learn who they're afraid of, right?
Brenans who use time ships. I mean, come on, they can erase
right.
entire civilization.
And then Next Gen was right here, kind of in our home quadrant, so to speak. Right. What I like about them, and a lot of people said you can take characters and do deep dives. What I like about Star Trek is you can take civilizations and do deep dives. Whether you want to talk about, the structure and the history of Romulus and the Tal Shiar, or whether you want to talk about the Federation and even going to the dark corners of Section 31, whether you want to talk about the laws of acquisition and how the Grand Nagus is chosen, and Ferengi culture. I'm just saying that women aren't supposed to wear clothes because that's kind of gross, right? Whether you want to talk about even the social structure of the Borg, what happens when a queen is destroyed? How does a new queen become a queen? And I like all of these civilizations. And as far as the cast go, you can do the deep dives, especially in the books, in the novels. Like, we know that Riker loves jazz. We know that Deanna Troi has a difficult relationship with her mother. We know that Picard and Beverly Crusher, like they always had this on again, off again, will they or won't they type of thing, which obviously they didn't. But there are characters you can deep dive on if you want to. The only thing that almost ruined it for me was when they done the new movies. And I can remember before the new movie came out, I said to a lot of my friends and stuff then, I said, the only way that this movie is not going to fail is if they somehow, some way go back in time and change something major from the main universe in the TV and make this its own kind of separate timeline. Because if you don't do that and it's just a reboot, you're literally spitting in the face of fans that have supported your storytelling and your franchise for the last 40 years. And what did they do? They went back. They even had the late, great Leonard Nimoy in there. They went back. They made a major change by destroying Vulcan. And now all of a sudden, that universe can be separate from the Prime one. The Prime one can go ahead on TV and in streaming and stuff. And this film one can kind of go on separate. Will they ever cross? We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah,
but
well,
they approached it in the right way, where now they have two viable timeline and storylines that they can develop.
but they haven't touched the new universe.
And I'll say this in terms of the technology. I forgot to mention this earlier. The one thing that I'm very curious about is Data says they're talking about where's the news. I need to see how my stocks are doing when they wake up some people that were cryogenically frozen. And, he's looking for a TV. And Data says that particular medium of entertainment or whatever, or, escapism or relaxation or whatever, didn't last much beyond the middle of the 21st century. I'm just saying, give us another 30 years or so. We're at the middle of the 21st century. And I wonder if TV is going to be around then. It'll be interesting to see how on the money Data actually was when that time comes.
You mean Gene Roddenberry?
No, I mean Commander Data.
Yeah, man.
I mean Commander Data.
We all saw that, and it's coming.
Well, here's the thing. You said something. Why didn't we, the Star Wars fans, get those deep dives until now? We did get those. We got those in the Dark Horse comic books back in the 90s.
I wondered if you would get much into comic books. Yeah, I knew that they went back further, but
but we also
a lot of you guys are referencing now, like the shows and the streaming stuff. That would be now, right?
Right, but my point.
I get what you're saying, though.
But what I'm getting at is that Disney said we got all of that in the expanded universe in the books, the Dark Horse comics, and all that. When Disney, before they did episode 7, they came out and they said, we're restarting everything. Episodes 4, 5, and 6, 1, 2, and 3 will be our continuity. We will be moving forward with episode 7 with our continuity. And the books and stuff will be legacy media. Everything that we do will be our own universe. That's a separate universe.
And it's very interesting too how you mentioned about it, like you found it boring or whatever. I was always like that with Star Wars. Yeah, I found Star Wars boring because I think we're two different audiences. I don't think neither is written badly, and I don't think either is particularly boring. Here's what I think: if you're looking for galactic domination, if you're looking for an underdog story, and you're looking for that being overwhelmed, Star Wars is your way to go. If you're looking for exploration of what in the hell can be out there, we can't be the only intelligent life in the universe. What other sort of intelligent life is out there? What are they like? What's their cultures like? What technologies do they have? What do they value? What do they not value? If you're looking for that kind of universal exploration, then Star Trek is going to be your thing. I don't think they're catering to the same audience.
I think
no, not at all. I don't think they are either, to be honest with you.
All right.
But yeah,
I think
we got Burke left, right?
Well,
I think Commander Sheridan would kick Darth Vader's butt. Captain Sheridan.
I think it's versus mode, and
okay.
This
so
is
what's
the part
that?
where this is the part where input schools all the Star Trek people.
Yeah.
And,
well, it depends. You guys want to pick
Oracle,
a versus
could you
and
please
explore it?
tap input on the shoulder and wake him up? I think he's still dreaming.
Oh,
I don't know what like. We're an hour and 40 minutes in. What's the versus?
Yeah, what's the versus, Raz?
the versus is basically okay. It's two things: fleet versus fleet. Star Trek, any ship versus Star Wars. Fleet, whatever. Who do you think wins? And then a versus mode of ground combat. So Jedis and clone troopers versus red shirts and Klingon warriors and shit like that. Overall versus mode. So
Can
let's
I
say
do this first and have this done? Because I'm pretty simple with this.
Yeah, me too.
me too.
On the ground, I give it to Star Wars, to be honest with you, because they have more experience in actual combat. The only one that's going to give anyone from Star Wars a run for their money will be the Klingons, because
the Jemadar.
the Klingons.
Jemadar.
The only other group that could possibly give them a run for their money, not because they have good fighting skills, but because of their defensive capabilities, might be the Borg. But honestly, when it comes to overall fighters, I got to give it on the ground to Star Wars. When it comes to in space, I don't know what forces can come together in Star Wars, but here's what I do know is whatever you bring together able to take on all of the Federation, all of the Cardassian Empire, all of the Romulan Empire, all of the Klingon Empire, all of the Ferengi Empire, all of the Borg, all of Species 6179, all of the Kazon, all of the Dominion. I can keep going. I can go all day with all of these civilizations that have gigantic armies in space at their disposal. You're going to need a universal wide army at your disposal.
Okay.
So in space, I give it to Star Trek. On land, I give it to Star Wars.
Okay, so
good.
I want to ask this question to Raz real quick.
Yes.
This is what universe does this I guess like fighting battle, the versus mode? What universe does this happen in?
That's an actually good for the that's a good point, because if it happens
Where Lazarus is in limbo.
well, if it happens anywhere outside the Star Wars galaxy, well, there's no midichlorians, so there's no force. And that's part of the expanded universe. So that's,
Right.
There's what? There's no force outside of that.
because the force is midichlorians, right? And that was part of one of the Star
It's
Wars
magic. I don't know
stories.
what it is. Somebody said
no, but that
space wizards
was
the other day. I was like, yeah, space wizards.
Well, okay. So here's the reason why I ask, because GotBot brought up a really very valid point. Like in space, this Star Trek army, that Star Trek army, blah blah blah. Okay. So the reason why I ask is because there is a worm that literally wraps around the Star Wars universe. It is a giant space worm, and it is considered the outer edge of the Star Wars universe, and that thing is part of the Star Wars universe.
That's
Okay.
freaking weird.
So if it happens in the Star Wars universe, I will take the cheap way out and say Star Wars wins both rounds, because any army that faces,
The worm would crush it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, and I don't mean that as like a Star Wars wins.
No, it's a fair point.
fair.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
part
fair
of the
point.
canon.
All I have to say is
Not like
worm
I
wouldn't
wouldn't have
matter. The worm wouldn't matter if you throw Q into the mix. He just snaps his finger and the
Not
worm goes away.
Not just Q NinjaBill, the entire Q
Continuum.
species,
Yeah.
the entire continuum.
continuum.
So if we go like God mode,
But that
Okay,
is God.
okay,
Their
okay.
species.
Yeah.
It
But
just
if
so
we
happens
go-
that they have abilities far beyond ours, but it's species. This is a hard versus is hard.
No, it is.
There's a
Okay.
lot of variables to it.
So I'll say, if we just keep it basic and we just keep it like movies
Ship
and
versus
shows,
ship, yeah.
like movies and shows and like base monsters and stuff, then I would say I'd agree with GotBot on the ground. The Star Wars hands down obliterates
Yeah.
anything
Oh,
Star Trek
absolutely,
can do.
absolutely. They have
Now-
they have the military and the numbers to achieve victory readily.
And
Yeah,
the combat
and-
experience.
But I will say where I disagree with GotBot on this is that it came off. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth, anything like that. It sounded like it would be like basically an easy win for Star Trek in space for those guys.
No, what I'm saying
Okay.
is there are so many civilizations that would make an accord of we have this common enemy. So even if we're enemies, we'll work together. I don't know how many of these well-developed civilizations there are
I
with their
see.
own armies
Okay.
in Star Wars to also be brought together, right?
Because I would say that individually, one-on-one in space, Star Wars would win. Like basically, if a TIE fighter went up against I don't know, pick a Star Trek ship, like an individual piloted ship, right? I think
even with that, you're right. I get what you're saying. Like if a TIE fighter goes up
maybe a
against
runabout.
if it goes up against like a shuttlecraft,
Yeah.
well, okay.
Runabout.
Well, if you
But
go
then-
against
but
the
then-
Defiant, you're going to get your ass kicked.
yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. I think that's what I'm getting at. I think Star Trek would ultimately win in space, but dude, I will say this: I think it would be by the skin of their teeth.
Okay.
May I interject here? Here's my thinking, and it's a little bit. It isn't really a bias, and yet it is a bias. Here's the thing. All right. So as we were saying, on the ground, Star Wars Empire would definitely have the military advantage. All right. They have the numbers, they have the methods, they have the armaments to achieve victory on a ground war. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. They have the numbers. All right. In space, however, we have now where Star Trek ships are more advanced. That's just a given, all right? They're far more maneuverable in most cases. Not all cases. I said most cases. They are far more maneuverable. However, Star Wars has harder hitting weapons, all right? They have kinetic, even their lasers are more kinetic, all right? But Star Trek comes back with more precise weapons, although their phasers aren't as powerful as, say, the Star Wars lasers are. They're more precise, so they can get more hits in the places they need to get the hits in when it comes like ship to ship, all right? That's just it is. Star Wars ships have a lot of longevity. That is true. Star Trek ships rely on maneuverability and shields and pinpoint weapons. That's what they're
and cloaking devices.
And in some cases, depending on the species, like the Romulans and Klingons, they'd come in obviously cloaked, decloak, fire, cloak again. Real guerrilla tactics.
Real fast too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
real guerrilla tactics.
And NinjaBill, I just want to say this real quick. Star Wars' biggest weakness when it would come to this fight. Okay. Star Wars has tons of, not just the Empire, tons of military everything. The Mandalorians is their own entire race of, we're gonna mess you up. It doesn't matter. Like yeah. But the biggest weakness that Star Wars has is that every last one of those organizations, whether it's the Empire, whether it's the Mandos, whether it's the planet that cloned
or the Pikes
clone
or whatever,
right?
yeah. I'm following you.
They're all about their bottom dollar. So all Star Trek would have to do, if the Empire said, we need more clones, we need more troops for this fight, all the Star Trek people would have to do would be land on that planet first and be like, they're giving you $1 billion, we'll give you $1.5 billion to stop production.
Yeah.
And then the planet would be like, all right, that's cool, bro. And then in that whatever 2 days and whatever it would be, while the Empire is kind of sitting there back like, okay, what's going on? Where are our troops? And then they try to do the communication and find out. They're like, oh, well, they gave us $1.5 billion to stop. And then the Empire
who would make that deal? The Ferengi would make that deal.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck
So
yeah.
that's where I feel like the Star Wars would really start to fall apart, because that would drastically reduce the Empire's ranks,
their offensive capability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and that's why I said they would win by the skin of their teeth, right?
But what we're also forgetting is that one of the main differences is that level of technology. While Star Wars ships are definitely can maneuver and definitely can hit harder, they lack in the technology. Like, for example,
What I'm hearing, NinjaBill, is that the dickheads win, baby.
Hold on. I want to hear what Papa Gord has to say now. And then after that, Enewtabie.
What I was trying to say is think about it. the ships, especially the capital ships, we're going to call them capital ships because of what they do, not just what they are, but what they are. All right. When you have your fighters, you have your capital ships, you have your freighters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But a capital ship, like say an Enterprise, right? It has a computer on there that is in leagues in advance of what you would find on a Star Wars ship. Now, I'm not saying a Star Trek ship could just waltz on over and take over a Star Wars ship's computers, because Star Wars computers aren't networked like we think of a network, all right, or like Star Trek works as a network. They just that wouldn't work. They would rely on that computer to get. They could scan. They have better scanners than anything in Star Wars. I mean, they can scan from light years away. They can scan a Death Star, find out everything about it, make a plan before they get in sight with each other. I mean, that tactically is a weapon in itself, and a major one. The more you know about your enemy, the faster you can win.
That big head technology, man.
All right. Okay. So NinjaBill, I agree with pretty much everything you just said. So Star Trek.
Gordon Enewtabie, that's what I want to hear from.
Go ahead.
All right. Jesus. I would say I was probably more siding with, again, just like GotBot said, with ground would definitely go to Star Wars, and space would definitely go to Star Trek. But I still think Star Trek would ultimately, in a space battle, would probably win. But I think Star Wars, I think a lot of those ships, because there are a lot of the super small ones that are maybe a little bit more sleek and I don't know, aerodynamic, whatever. And I hate to have to pull from the movies we don't like to mention, but I mean the one scene in episode 9 when, of course, everybody shows up and their brother with all their ships, and just to see just the huge variety. I think overall, I think there's probably more, I would say more ship classes in Star Wars over Star Trek, maybe.
Okay.
But that could be a whole new thing. But yeah, I think that as a Star Wars guy, I would think that we would probably take out a good amount of Star Trek ships. So I still think I think Enterprise and Defiant and a few, maybe some of the heavier armored ones will definitely survive, but you also need mass amounts of crew to also run those damn things. So I think, ultimately, we take out a Star Trek ship, you're losing a lot more. Whereas if you blast, say, the Millennium Falcon on a good day, maybe you got 2 people in there, right? You got Han and Chewie, or Ray and whoever. So I really do think that I don't think we would claim space as ours, but I think we definitely give the Trekkies
a run for the money,
a number of years of rebuild ahead of them, and then you guys would have to come down to the ground. So then I think what ultimately.
Well, that is another point that I'd like to concede is
Star Wars wins.
I will concede on one thing is the sheer fleet sizes. We've never seen anything like that in the Star Trek universe. The fleet sizes that the Empire has. I mean, they have thousands of Super Star Destroyers. They have thousands of Star Destroyers. I mean, they have fleets and fleets and fleets, like, I don't know, 5,000 something I read somewhere, ships or more. I could be off.
I can write 10,000 on a piece of paper, and if you don't see it,
50 trillion.
Well, for example,
I swear, honey, that Transformer was only $10.
In that last movie, how many of those Star Destroyers did Emperor Palpatine show up there? I mean, think about it. There was, I don't know what, a couple of hundred there.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, whereas, typical fleet sizes in Star Trek are no more than 50 ships. I mean, come on.
That's fair.
I don't know, man. Wolf 359 had a lot more than 50 ships, and that was
I'm just saying, a typical fleet, though. I'm talking about a typical fleet.
No.
Look at a typical fleet in Star Wars versus a typical fleet in Federation.
True. Yeah, true. I hear you.
All right. Okay, Enewtabie, what's your take? And then I'll finish with my take.
All right, let's start with the ground. So if we're talking about the clones, you ain't got a prayer against the clones. We're talking about stormtroopers versus Starfleet personnel. It's probably a lot more even because if you think about it, if you go back and look at like episode the Siege of AR 556 in Deep Space Nine, they were fighting ground combat hand to hand against the Jem'Hadar. So
Yep.
it
True.
maybe it's closer there. Clones, no way in the world you can beat the clones. They're trained killers. They didn't care. They just eliminate everything. So
Plus, if you had the Bad Batch.
they're the top level guys. So that's like special
Exactly.
forces right there. So
That's special. Yep.
yeah. So from the Star Wars, here's the only thing I could think of. And I think it's pretty even battle. If the Death Star exists, you hyperspeed it, space in, you jump in, you fire your laser at Earth, you fry Earth, it's done. Game over.
You'd have to fry a couple more planets.
Laser, it's over.
Well, somebody in chat was talking about, they just, light speed some. Well, Star Trek uses warp, and the warp system is actually better than the light speed because in Star Wars they have to use light speed. They have to use paths that already exist, like, hyperspace pathways, right? Hyperspace ways or whatever, laid out courses which ships have to travel in. Whereas in warp, they could do what like Riker did, called the Riker maneuver. You half a warp, jump from one point, jump right behind a ship, blast them, and jump out again. I mean,
that's the Picard maneuver. Not the Riker maneuver.
Probably the biggest difference, though, is Star Trek has shields. Star Wars doesn't.
Well, they do. Both
they have planetary shields,
deflector shields, and
deflector shields. But Star Trek ships have full, folding ships around, shields around the whole ship. So
ablative plating and
all that stuff. That's going to make for a tough battle. But there's a billion ships in Star Wars, so I think they just eventually overwhelm you.
Well,
that's what I was saying earlier. Is we got to consider fleet sizes too, because fleet sizes will make a difference. If you have 500 Star Destroyers against say 50 Galaxy class ships, those Galaxy class ships are going to be dead in the water not too long.
Not necessarily, and that's my point. So if for ground troops, I'm with everybody. Star Trek Blues, and I'll concede that. But in the ground, in the air, the fact that Star Trek, if you think about shield modulation, the only way to pierce a shield is if you happen to know the exact modulation of that shield, so that
or the amount of force applied on
or your an extreme amount of fire. So probably the shield wouldn't last long against, a Star Destroyer or a Star Killer shot. I'm just saying.
A lot of people forget that the Star Wars also uses ion weaponry, and ions has been shown in Star Trek to disrupt their shields more often than not. Ion weapons,
but not lasers. Because there's that episode where laser shoots at the Enterprise and it does nothing. But I think the key factor here is eventually the Federation gets desperate and they start using not just the Federation, the whole Star Trek universe, and then they start just beaming bombs on ships or beaming out. Oh, here's your life support system. Oh, boom, we're out.
But here's the problem with that. Here's the problem
There's
with
no
that.
problem with that because you need to know how to defend against a transporter to be able to equip a shield that's going to defend against it.
Transport
and Star Wars doesn't have that.
But they wouldn't even need to transport anything inside the ship. Transport a couple of bombs or 4-ton torpedoes just on top of their hull, right above.
Oh yeah, you can do that too.
Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have to transport anything inside the ship. They can just transport it.
But imagine you have your whole fleet of Star Destroyer, and then all of your life support system just freaking disappears. That's it. You just teleport out. But I think Enewtabie's tactic of light speeding the Death Star, blowing the the Klingon home world, and then going back to Kardashian doing the same thing, that would cause huge attrition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
In the end, I think we can. I'm just gonna, say I think we can all agree that Oracle has been killing it in chat today with the space references. And I think she wins this whole debate.
100%.
All in favor of Oracle winning, say aye.
Aye.
There you go.
Aye. Yep. Okay, so it's official. Between Star Wars and Star Trek, Spaceballs is the clear winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely winner.
Did anybody see that coming?
I agree.
Oh, there you go. Well,
This
it's
is-
Babylon 5 wins it all.
no. Shut up. No.
That's a
Check
good
out
show,
the
though.
traitor.
Good show.
Sequest wins it all.
Sequest?
Yeah,
Sequence.
remember Sequest?
Just
Sequest
because of
Sequest
Ted Raimi.
2029,
ESV.
dude, that's what's up. That's a good
Yes.
show.
That was a good show. My
Sequence
mom loved it.
TV, Yep.
No, but there's honestly in the past there's good sci-fi shows, but nothing has topped Star Trek and Star Wars for the past 50 years. I mean, maybe Battlestar Galactica. Really, they had a good run. Dark Matter, newer show Dark Matter got canceled, but that was really interesting. The Expanse was really, really good.
Yes.
I love The Expanse. Maybe the last season was stretching it a bit and kind of went off, but
I like Stargate.
Stargate, they had a huge run. Of all of the Stargate, Universe was my favorite.
Yes.
Beautifully
I don't
written.
really know. What
Yeah, I hate that. I hate they cut it off.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
Yeah.
such a good. Everybody was a little corrupted on that show, and everybody had their own agenda, and everybody's fucking each other's wife. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's a great
And on that note, I don't know about anybody else, but I've been here for 2 hours. I gotta get up and move around, man.
Yeah, I'm fixing to end it. So, guys, I just want to say to everyone who, honestly, first of all, everyone who participated in the panel, thank you. Thank you to Raz and Anthony for even thinking that this would be worth doing and putting it together and all that stuff. As always, I've always had a blast. Always have a blast when you guys join. And so outros, same order. Papa G, go ahead, man.
All right. Again, yeah, Bob Gord, the Canadian Santa Claus. Find me over on YouTube. I do some stuff once in a while, but yeah, I had a blast. This was fantastic. So appreciate the invite, and yeah, thanks everybody.
Enewtabie, the American Elf. Glad to be here. You can check me out on YouTube, Enewtabie. You can check me out on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Just type in that name, you'll find it.
I want to thank everybody that was in the chat. I want to thank everybody that was on the panel. I love y'all, man. Love y'all. And like I always say, don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every one of you in the panel, each and every one of you in the chat, each and every one of you that watch this later, whether you feel it or not, somehow, some way, you do make a difference in the world. And I know that I look forward to the next time that I see any of you inside the videos.
All right, I'm Razyel Kane. Thank you everyone for coming. Enewtabie and Papa Gord, I invited you probably last week, just because we were running out of helper for input. It was going to be him against all three of us. So Papa G, first interaction with you on screen. So that was amazing. Thanks for coming. Enewtabie, always a pleasure to have you here.
Yes,
GotBot, same thing. NinjaBill partner, we'll see you soon for the next book. Input, you keep rocking. You're amazing. So you can find me on Facebook, YouTube. I do voice actor spotlight. I'm currently working on Scott McNeil, and it's freaking huge because he does so much. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I do toy reviews and toy hacks and stuff. So, and thanks for stopping by, everyone in the chat. And remember that nothing in life gives you a right to be an asshole.
Hello, I'm NinjaBill Reviews of YouTube. NinjaBill Reviews on YouTube. I don't know. That didn't sound right. NinjaBill, and you can find me on YouTube as NinjaBill Reviews. You can find me in Facebook as Shinobi Biru and on tformers.com as Shinobi Biru. And it was a great pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Raz. Input, Papa G, nice to meet you. Enewtabie, always a pleasure, my friend.
Yes, sir.
GotBot, man, brother. Always a fun time when you're around. Raz and he and I do a monthly series called Wheel Time Book and Review, where it's going to be changing to a different book here in about 2 or 3 episodes. I also do a NinjaBill Live once a month. 4 episodes, okay. I knew it was 4 around there.
I'm counting the books. I think it's 3, yeah.
Yeah, we just did book 12, so we've already covered 12 of the
13, 14 prequel. Yeah, we have 3 more episodes to go. Okay.
Yep. So, and above everything else, hey, be good to each other.
Yep. And just to build on that real quick, just want to say everyone who joined in chat, thank you. Everyone who watches this later. Thank you. And like I said at the beginning of it, at the beginning of this, check out the GoFundMe down in the description below if you guys can help out the families of the two fallen. Federation, help me out here.
Admiral?
Admirals, thank you. The Federation Admirals, Juanita Gamble and Frank Tajelle. Like I said, description or link to that is in the description below. Jesus, could I butcher that any worse? But yeah, take care of yourself, take care of each other, guys, and that's it, man. That's all I got. Thanks for joining us, everybody.